The Luna Station communication array had been quiet for 6 months. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the empty corridors, checking each monitoring station one by one. The galactic community rarely sent messages to Earth anymore. Most alien species preferred to pretend humanity did not exist. Elena stopped at her desk and activated the main console. The screens lit up with their usual display of cosmic background radiation and automated trading signals. She poured herself coffee from the small machine in the corner and settled into her chair. Another boring day of monitoring silence. At exactly 14:32 station time, every alarm in the facility began screaming. Elena jumped, spilling hot coffee across her uniform. The main screen flashed red as 17 different frequencies lit up simultaneously. The computer system struggled to process the incoming data stream. She had never seen anything like it. "Computer, identify signal source," she called out. "Unknown transmission detected. Origin, Keth-Mora system, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. Signal strength suggests planetary broadcast array." Elena's hands flew across the keyboard. The Keth-Mora system was listed in the galactic database as home to a peaceful species of scientists and artists. They had never contacted Earth before. Why would they be broadcasting on 17 frequencies at once? The signal contained layers of data, mathematical sequences, star charts, and what appeared to be linguistic patterns. Elena activated the translation protocol and waited as the computer began processing the alien language. Minutes passed. The signal continued without pause, growing, stronger as more transmitters seemed to join the broadcast. Elena checked the readings twice. This was not a normal communication. The power levels suggested desperation. The translation program chimed softly. Text began appearing on her secondary screen. "People of the galaxy, we send this message in 17 languages hoping someone will hear. Our world is dying. Ships from the Ravager Collective have entered our system. They demand surrender. We have no weapons. We are scientists and artists. We cannot fight." Elena read the message 3 times before it fully registered. She activated the emergency communication line to Earth. "This is Luna Station calling Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Dr. Elena Vasquez requesting immediate connection to Admiral Marcus Cole." Static filled the line for several seconds before a gruff voice responded. "Dr. Vasquez, this is Admiral Cole. What's the emergency?" "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from the Keth-Mora system. An alien species is under attack. They're asking for help." "Patch it through to my office immediately. I'll review the data and contact you within the hour." Elena transferred the signal to Earth Command and continued monitoring. The alien message kept repeating, but new information was being added with each cycle. Population counts, defensive capabilities, estimated time before complete destruction. The numbers were staggering. 3 billion Keth-Morans lived on their homeworld. Their technology was advanced in medicine and engineering, but they possessed no military systems. The approaching enemy fleet contained over 800 ships. Elena translated more of the message. The Keth-Morans described their attackers as brutal and efficient. The Ravager Collective had destroyed 17 civilizations in the past 50 years. They took resources and enslaved populations. No one had ever successfully resisted them. Her communication panel beeped. Admiral Cole was calling back. "Dr. Vasquez, I've reviewed the signal. This appears genuine. Have any other species responded to their distress call?" Elena checked the galactic communication networks. "No, sir. Complete silence from all known civilizations. It appears everyone is ignoring the signal." "Typical," Cole muttered. "The galactic community never wants to get involved. They prefer to let weaker species handle their own problems." "Sir, the Keth-Morans don't have any way to handle this. Their message indicates they've never fought a war. They don't even understand military tactics." Cole was quiet for several minutes. Elena could hear him typing in the background, probably reviewing files on the Ravager Collective. "Doctor, I need you to keep monitoring that signal. Record everything and prepare a full analysis for the President. This situation may require our attention." Elena spent the next 4 hours processing the alien transmission. The Cathamarans sent detailed information about their society, their planet, and their scientific achievements. They had made breakthroughs in medicine that could benefit the entire galaxy. Their art and music were considered beautiful by many species. They were exactly the kind of civilization that deserved protection. The signal changed at 1847 station time. New voices joined the broadcast, speaking faster and with obvious fear. Elena's translation program worked overtime to keep up. Enemy ships have entered our outer defense perimeter. We have no weapons to stop them. Our evacuation ships are too slow. We estimate 6 hours before they reach our planet. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We do not want to die. Elena's hands were shaking as she forwarded the update to Earth Command. She had studied dozens of alien civilizations during her career, but she had never heard such raw terror in their voices. Her console chimed with an incoming call from Earth. This time it was not Admiral Cole, but President Victoria Hayes herself. Dr. Vasquez, I understand you've been monitoring a distress signal from an alien civilization under attack. Yes, Madam President. The situation is desperate. They have maybe 6 hours before the enemy arrives. I've called an emergency session of the Terran High Council. Admiral Cole is preparing a briefing on our military options. I need you to join the meeting via video link in 30 minutes. Elena quickly organized her data and prepared her presentation. The High Council had never discussed military intervention for a non-allied species. Humanity's policy had always been to avoid galactic conflicts. But the Catamaran situation was different. The emergency session began at 1930. Elena watched as 12 council members appeared on her screen. Admiral Cole stood at a podium, presenting tactical information about the Ravager Collective. The enemy force consists of approximately 800 ships of various sizes. Their technology is crude but effective. They rely on overwhelming numbers, rather than advanced tactics. Intelligence suggests they have been operating without opposition for decades. Council member David Parks raised his hand. Admiral, what are our chances if we decide to intervene? Honestly, sir, we would be severely outnumbered. Our entire active fleet consists of 120 vessels. However, our technology and training are superior. The Ravagers have never faced organized resistance. Elena was asked to present her analysis of the alien distress signal. She explained the Cathamoran society and their complete lack of military capability. These people are scientists, artists, and philosophers, she told the council. They have contributed significant advances to galactic medicine and engineering. If we let them die, we lose not just 3 billion lives, but centuries of accumulated knowledge. The debate continued for 2 hours. Some council members argued that humanity should not risk war with an unknown enemy. Others insisted that moral obligation required action. At 21:45, the debate was settled by events beyond their control. Elena's communication array went silent. The Catamaran distress signal stopped mid-sentence. For the first time in 8 hours, the Luna station was receiving only background cosmic radiation. The silence was more terrifying than any alarm. President Hayes looked directly into the camera. Dr. Vasquez, are you certain the signal has stopped? Yes. Madam President, complete communications blackout from the Kethmora system. The President turned to Admiral Cole. How long to mobilize our fleet? 6 hours for full deployment, ma'am. Do it. Authorization code Alpha 77. Humanity will not stand by while genocide happens in our galaxy. The Mars orbital shipyard had never seen such activity. Admiral Marcus Cole stood on the command deck of the TDF Retribution, watching as dozens of ships moved into formation. Red emergency lights flashed across every vessel as crews prepared for immediate departure. Captain Jake Morrison checked his status board for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Admiral, we have confirmation from all fleet commanders. 12 dreadnoughts ready for departure, 48 destroyers completing final systems checks, 60 corvettes loaded with supplies and ammunition. Cole nodded grimly. And the Marines? Colonel Amy Rodriguez reports 30,000 troops aboard transport vessels. Full combat gear, heavy weapons, and medical supplies for extended operations. The Admiral walked to the main viewing window. The assembled fleet stretched across several kilometers of space. Each ship glowed with the blue light of active engines. Crew members moved between vessels in small shuttles, making last-minute preparations. "Sir," Morrison said quietly, "the crew is asking questions. They want to know what we're really getting into." Cole understood their concern. The Terran Defense Force had fought pirates and smugglers, but never a full-scale war against an alien species. The Ravager Collective was an unknown enemy with overwhelming numbers. "Call all ship commanders for a briefing in conference room. Alpha, include Colonel Rodriguez and Lieutenant Tom Parker from Intelligence. Time to tell everyone what we know." 20 minutes later, the conference room was packed with officers. Cole activated the main display screen showing a map of the Kethmora system. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to war. Our enemy is the Ravager Collective, a group that has destroyed 17 civilizations in the past 50 years. Intelligence estimates they have 800 ships currently attacking the Kethmoran homeworld. Commander Lisa Wright of the destroyer." TDF Hammer raised her hand. "Sir, we're outnumbered 8-1. What's our tactical advantage?" Lieutenant Parker stepped forward. "Our technology is superior in every category. Better weapons, stronger shields, and faster engines. The Ravagers rely on crude tactics and overwhelming numbers. They've never faced organized resistance." "What about ground combat?" asked Colonel Rodriguez. Parker brought up new images on the screen. "Ravager soldiers are physically strong but poorly trained. They're used to fighting civilians, not professional soldiers. Our Marines have every advantage in training and equipment." Captain Morrison studied the tactical data. "How do we know the Kethmorans are still alive? Their signal went dead 12 hours ago." "We don't," Cole admitted. "But intelligence believes the Ravagers prefer to capture populations for slave labor. The attack probably focused on destroying communication systems first." The briefing continued for an hour. Each ship commander received specific orders and tactical assignments. The fleet would jump to the edge of the Kethmora system and assess the situation before engaging. As the meeting ended, Cole pulled Morrison aside. "Jake, I need you to understand something. This mission could end badly for all of us. We're risking the entire fleet for people we've never met." Morrison straightened his shoulders. "Sir, that's exactly why we need to go. If we won't help strangers in trouble, what kind of people are we?" The Admiral smiled. Morrison had been his student at the Naval Academy 15 years ago. The young officer still had the same moral certainty that made him an excellent leader. "All ships prepare for departure," Cole announced over the fleet communication system. "Destination, Kethmora system. Estimated travel time, 3 days. This is not a training exercise. We are going to save 3 billion lives." The massive fleet began moving away from Mars. One by one, the ships activated their hyperspace drives and disappeared into the void. The journey would give them time to prepare detailed battle plans. On the transport ship TDF Guardian, Colonel Rodriguez addressed her Marines. The soldiers sat in rows checking their weapons and armor. Most had never seen combat against alien forces. "Listen up, Marines. We're heading into unknown territory to fight an enemy that thinks they're invincible. The Ravagers have been bullying peaceful species for decades. Time to show them what happens when they pick on someone who can fight back." Sergeant Mike Davis raised his hand. "Colonel, what do we know about Ravager combat capabilities?" "They're strong and vicious, but they rely on fear tactics. They're used to fighting civilians who surrender immediately. We're not civilians, and we don't surrender." The Marines spent the next day practicing combat drills in the ship's training bay. They rehearsed boarding actions, defensive positions, and rescue operations. Rodriguez insisted on perfect coordination. There would be no second chances in actual combat. On the flagship, Lieutenant Parker worked with his intelligence team to analyze every piece of data about the Ravager Collective. The enemy ships appeared to be built for intimidation rather than efficiency. Large angular designs covered in spikes and weapon ports. "Sir," said analyst Beth Cooper, "I found something interesting in the Ravager ship schematics. Their armor is thick but poorly distributed. Concentrated fire at specific points should penetrate their defenses." Parker studied the analysis. "Good work. Send this information to all ship commanders. Every advantage helps when you're outnumbered 8-1. The second day of travel brought an unexpected development. Dr. Elena Vasquez, monitoring communications from Luna Station, managed to intercept a weak signal from the Kethmora system. This is Research Station Keth 7 calling anyone who can hear this message. We are hidden in the asteroid belt surrounding our system. The Ravagers have occupied our planet, but approximately 2 billion of our people are still alive in underground shelters. Cole immediately ordered the fleet to prepare for communication with the surviving Kethmorans. Dr. Vasquez worked to establish a secure channel. The first direct conversation between humans and Kethmorans lasted only minutes, but it provided crucial intelligence. The aliens were amazed that anyone had responded to their distress call. "You are the humans," said the Kethmoran scientist. "We have heard stories about your species. The galactic community calls you Deathworlders. They say you are violent and dangerous." Captain Morrison answered the transmission. "We prefer to think of ourselves as protective. We don't start fights, but we finish them." The Kethmoran provided detailed information about Ravager positions on the planet's surface. Most of the enemy ground forces were concentrated around major cities, harvesting resources and processing captured civilians. "How many Ravager ships are in the system?" Admiral Cole asked. "We count approximately 700 vessels. They have divided into 3 groups, one around our planet, one mining our asteroid belt, and one patrolling the outer system." The intelligence was both good and bad news. The Ravagers had not brought their entire fleet, but 700 ships was still overwhelming odds. However, dividing their forces created opportunities for tactical strikes. On the third day, the human fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kethmora system. Every ship was at full combat readiness. Weapons were charged, shields were active, and crew members were at battle stations. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the countdown timer. In 60 seconds, they would face the largest military challenge in human history. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole. We go into battle to save innocent lives, fight with honor, fight with courage, and remember that 3 billion people are counting on us." The timer reached 0. The human fleet dropped into normal space and immediately detected the massive Ravager armada surrounding the Kethmoran homeworld. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kethmora system. Admiral Cole stared at the main display screen in horror. Hundreds of Ravager ships surrounded the blue-green planet like hungry vultures. Massive harvester vessels hung in low orbit, their dark hulls blocking out sections of sunlight. "Tactical report," Cole ordered. Lieutenant Parker's voice was tight with tension. 712 enemy vessels confirmed. They're arranged in 3 defensive formations, 200 ships around the planet, 300 mining the asteroid belt, and the rest patrolling the outer system. Captain Morrison studied the enemy formations. "Sir, they're not expecting resistance. Look at their positions. No proper defensive screens. Ships scattered for maximum coverage rather than mutual support." Cole nodded. The Ravagers had made their first mistake. They were positioned to intimidate and harvest, not to fight a real battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole. Execute attack pattern Delta. Destroyers and corvettes will hit the outer patrol group first. Draw their attention while the dreadnoughts move into position for the main assault." The human fleet split into 3 groups. Captain Morrison led the destroyers toward the outer system, while Colonel Martinez took the corvettes in a wide flanking maneuver. Admiral Cole kept the dreadnoughts in reserve, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The first shots were fired by the destroyer TDF Hammer. Commander Wright's plasma cannons lit up space as they tore into a Ravager patrol ship. The enemy vessel exploded in a brilliant flash, caught completely by surprise. "Enemy ships are responding," reported the tactical officer. "They're moving to intercept our destroyers." The outer patrol group consisted of 50 Ravager ships. They moved toward the human destroyers with crude but aggressive tactics. Their weapons were primitive but numerous. Energy beams and missile salvos filled the space between the 2 forces. Morrison's destroyers used their superior speed and maneuverability to devastating effect. They fired precision strikes at enemy weak points while avoiding the worst of the return fire. Within minutes, 12 Ravager ships were destroyed with only minor damage to the human vessels. "This is Colonel Martinez," came the voice over the Communication system. Corvettes are in position for flanking attack, requesting permission to engage. Permission granted, Cole responded. Hit them hard and fast. The corvettes struck the Ravager formation from behind. Their smaller size allowed them to dart between enemy ships, firing at close range before escaping. The Ravagers found themselves caught between two human forces, unable to coordinate an effective response. The battle's tempo increased rapidly. More Ravager ships joined the fight, abandoning their positions around the planet and asteroid belt. Cole watched as his plan unfolded perfectly. The enemy was reacting emotionally rather than tactically. "Admiral," Morrison called out, "we've destroyed 30 enemy ships, but they're bringing up reinforcements from the main fleet. Estimated 200 vessels moving to our position." "Understood. All destroyers and corvettes fall back to Rally Point Alpha. Time for Phase 2. The human light ships retreated toward the outer edge of the system, drawing the Ravager reinforcements away from the planet. As the enemy gave chase, Admiral Cole moved his dreadnoughts into attack position. All dreadnoughts target the harvester vessels in planetary orbit. Those ships are the key to their operation. Destroy them and we cripple their entire mission. The 12 human dreadnoughts dropped out of stealth mode directly above the Kethmoran homeworld. Their massive guns opened fire on the surprised harvester ships. The first salvo destroyed 3 of the enormous vessels, sending burning debris toward the planet's atmosphere. The remaining Ravager ships around the planet scrambled to respond, but they had been caught in the worst possible position, scattered and focused on ground operations rather than space combat. The TDF Retribution led the dreadnought assault. Admiral Cole watched as his ship's main guns punched through Ravager, armor like paper. These were the most powerful weapons in the human arsenal, designed to crack open heavily defended space stations. "Enemy ships are attempting to form defensive formations," reported the tactical officer. "They're learning fast." "Not fast enough," Cole replied grimly. "Continue firing. Destroy every harvester in orbit." The space battle raged for 2 hours. Human tactics and technology slowly overcame Ravager numbers and brutality. The enemy fought with desperate fury, but they had never faced opponents who could match their aggression with superior skill. Captain Morrison's destroyers rejoined the main battle after destroying the outer patrol group. The combined human fleet now focused on the remaining Ravager ships around the planet. "Colonel Rodriguez, prepare for ground assault," Cole ordered. "We need to eliminate enemy forces on the surface while we have space superiority." "Yes, sir." Marines are ready for immediate deployment. The transport ships launched their assault craft toward the planet's surface. Intelligence had identified 3 major Ravager ground bases where captured Kethmorans were being held. Each base would require a different approach. Rodriguez led the first assault herself, targeting the largest enemy installation near the planetary capital. Her Marines dropped from orbit in armored pods, landing directly inside the Ravager defensive perimeter. The ground battle was brutal and immediate. Ravager soldiers were physically powerful, standing nearly 3 meters tall with natural armor plating. But they were unprepared for human combat tactics. Sergeant Davis led his squad through the enemy base, using coordinated fire and movement to overwhelm Ravager positions. The aliens fought like individual warriors rather than organized soldiers. Human teamwork gave them a decisive advantage. "These things are tough," Davis reported over the radio, "but they don't know how to work together. Keep them separated and pick them off one by one." The Marines fought through the base systematically, clearing each section before moving forward. They found thousands of Kethmoran prisoners in holding cells, weak from captivity, but alive. Dr. Emily Chen, the fleet's chief medical officer, coordinated rescue operations from orbit. Her teams worked frantically to treat injured Kethmorans and prepare them for evacuation. Meanwhile, the space battle reached its climax. The surviving Ravager ships attempted a desperate assault on the human dreadnoughts. They concentrated their remaining forces for one massive attack. "Incoming missile swarm," warned the tactical officer. 200 projectiles targeted at our position. All ships, defensive pattern gamma. Point defense systems to maximum. The human fleet's defensive systems engaged simultaneously. Laser, grids and interceptor missiles filled space with deadly light. Most of the Ravager missiles were destroyed before reaching their targets, but several broke through. The TDF Retribution shook under multiple impacts. Damage reports flowed in from across the ship, but the armor held. Cole's flagship remained in the fight. "Return fire. All weapons," Cole ordered. "Show them what human guns can do." The Dreadnought's main battery fired in sequence, each shot precisely targeted at enemy command ships. The remaining Ravager fleet began to break apart under the concentrated firepower. On the planet's surface, Colonel Rodriguez achieved her objective. The largest Ravager base was secure, and over 50,000 Kethmoran prisoners were free. The other two bases fell within the hour, as human tactics proved superior to alien brutality. "Admiral," Morrison reported, "enemy fleet is retreating. Approximately 100 ships are leaving the system at maximum speed." Cole watched the tactical display as the surviving Ravager vessels fled toward hyperspace. The battle was won, but the cost had been significant. 3 human destroyers were lost, and casualties numbered in the hundreds. The space around Kethmora was now clear of enemy ships. Burning wreckage drifted slowly toward the planet's gravity well. The human fleet had achieved the impossible, defeating an enemy that outnumbered them 7-1. The smoke was still rising from the destroyed Ravager bases when Admiral Cole stepped onto the surface of Kethmora. His boots touched alien soil for the first time as he surveyed the scene of devastation. Burned enemy vehicles lay scattered across the landscape, their twisted metal forms testament to the fierce battle that had taken place. Captain Morrison walked beside him, checking reports on his portable display. "Sir, final casualty count is in. We lost 3 destroyers and suffered 412 casualties. Enemy losses are estimated at over 600 ships and 15,000 ground troops." Cole nodded grimly. Every human death weighed heavily on his conscience, but they had saved an entire civilization. Around them, Marines continued the work of liberation, helping weak and frightened Kethmorans emerge from underground shelters. The first Kethmoran that Cole met was an elderly scientist named Dr. Valen. The alien stood barely 4 feet tall, with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. His hands shook as he approached the human admiral. "You came," Dr. Valen said in broken English. "We sent our message to the galaxy, but only you answered. The other species ignored our calls for help." "We don't abandon people in trouble," Cole replied simply. "How many of your people survived?" "Nearly 2 billion are still alive in the deep shelters. The Ravagers were more interested in harvesting our cities than finding hidden populations. Your attack came before they could complete their search." Colonel Rodriguez joined the conversation, her combat armor still smoking from recent battle. "Doctor, we found evidence in the Ravager bases that might interest you. Lieutenant Parker believes it's intelligence data about other attacks." They walked to the captured enemy command center, where human technicians worked to decode alien computer systems. Lieutenant Parker looked up from a translation console, his face pale with shock. "Admiral, you need to see this. The Ravagers have detailed records of 17 previous civilizations they've destroyed. Each attack followed the same pattern. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, then harvest the entire population." Parker activated a holographic display showing star charts marked with red indicators. "These are the destroyed worlds. Over 40 billion sentient beings killed in the past 50 years. And sir, there's something else. The other galactic civilizations knew about these attacks." Cole studied the data with growing anger. "What do you mean they knew?" "Communication logs show that many of the destroyed civilizations sent distress calls, just like the Kethmorans. The major galactic powers received these messages, but chose not to respond. They have a policy of non-interference with what they call natural selection." Dr. Valen's large eyes filled with tears. "They let 40 billion people die because they did not want to get involved in conflicts?" "It appears so," Parker continued. "The galactic community has known about the Ravager Collective for decades. They consider them a force of nature, like a disease or natural disaster, something unpleasant but inevitable." Captain Morrison clenched his fists. "While we've been trying to prove we're civilized enough to join their community, They've been letting genocide happen across the galaxy. The revelation changed everything. Humanity had spent years trying to gain acceptance from the galactic community, hoping to be seen as more than violent Deathworlders. Now they discovered that the supposedly advanced civilizations were willing to watch billions die rather than risk their own safety. Cole activated his communication link to Earth. "This is Admiral Cole requesting priority connection to President Hayes." The president's image appeared on the portable screen within minutes. "Admiral, congratulations on your victory. Initial reports suggest you've achieved the impossible." "Thank you, Madam President. But we've discovered something that changes our entire understanding of galactic politics. The other civilizations have been allowing the Ravager Collective to commit genocide for 50 years. President Hayes listened in silence as Cole explained the captured intelligence data. Her expression grew darker with each revelation. "Admiral, I want every piece of evidence documented and prepared for broadcast to the entire galaxy. It's time." The galactic community faced the consequences of their inaction. Over the following days, human ships worked around the clock to rescue Kethmoran survivors. Dr. Emily Chen established field hospitals in the major cities, treating both physical injuries and psychological trauma. The aliens had lived in terror for months, never knowing if each day would be their last. The Kethmorans proved eager to help with the intelligence analysis. Their advanced computer systems could process the captured Ravager data much faster than human technology. Working together, they uncovered the full scope of the collective's activities. "The Ravagers operate from a base in the Outer Rim," Dr. Valen explained to Admiral Cole. "They maintain a fleet of over 2,000 ships and have plans to attack 12 more civilizations in the next 10 years. Cole studied the star charts showing potential targets. Each marked system contained billions of innocent lives. "Doctor, are any of these civilizations capable of defending themselves? Perhaps 2 or 3 have small defense forces. The others are like us, peaceful species with no military capability. They will be slaughtered unless someone helps them." The implications were staggering. Without intervention, another 30 billion beings would die in the coming decade. The galactic community would watch it happen, just as they had watched 40 billion others perish. On the 5th day after the battle, something unexpected happened. Communication arrays across the human fleet detected incoming transmissions from dozens of different star systems. The messages all carried the same basic content: requests for protection. Lieutenant Parker coordinated the translation efforts. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from 47 different civilizations. Word of our victory has spread across the galaxy. These species are all potential Ravager targets, and they're asking for our help." Admiral Cole read through the messages with amazement. Species that had never contacted humanity before were now pleading for protection. They offered trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and territorial concessions in exchange for military support. "They're treating us like the galactic police force," Captain Morrison observed, "as if we're responsible for protecting everyone." "Maybe we are," Cole replied thoughtfully. "If the established galactic powers won't act, and we have the capability to help, don't we have an obligation?" Dr. Valen overheard their conversation. "Admiral, my people have decided something important. We want to join your defense efforts. Our technology may be peaceful, but we can contribute sensor systems, medical advances, and scientific support. We do not want other species to suffer as we did." More messages arrived hourly, not just requests for help, but offers of alliance. Dozens of civilizations wanted to join a mutual defense pact under human leadership. For the first time in galactic history, the weak and peaceful had a chance to unite against predators. Colonel Rodriguez approached with the final casualty reports from the ground battle. "Sir, we've completed the evacuation of all Ravager prison facilities. Final count is 87,000 Kethmorans rescued from captivity. Most are in good condition and should recover fully." Cole looked out across the alien landscape, where human medical teams worked alongside Kethmoran doctors to treat the survivors. Ships from both species moved supplies and equipment between the surface and orbital stations. Already, the two civilizations were learning to work together. The captured Ravager intelligence revealed one more crucial fact. The collective maintained detailed records of galactic military capabilities. They knew exactly which civilizations could fight back and which were defenseless. They had deliberately avoided any species with significant military power. Until now, they had never encountered organized resistance. The Battle of Kethmora was their first major defeat in over 50 years. Intelligence suggested they were already planning a massive retaliatory strike against humanity. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kethmora. President Victoria Hayes stood before the assembled Galactic Council, the first human leader ever invited to address the ancient governing body. Representatives from 200 civilizations filled the massive chamber, their varied forms creating a sea of colors and shapes. The president activated her translator and began to speak. Her words would be broadcast to over 1,000 worlds, marking humanity's emergence as a major galactic power. Honored delegates, I stand before you today, not as a conqueror, but as a protector. 3 months ago, the Kethmoran civilization faced extinction. They sent distress calls across the galaxy begging for help. Only humanity answered. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many delegates had opposed inviting the human leader to speak. They preferred to maintain the old order, where major decisions were made by the established powers. We have since learned that 47 civilizations sent similar distress calls over the past 50 years. 40 billion sentient beings died while this council debated non-interference policies. Today that changes. President Hayes activated a holographic display showing the Mutual Defense Alliance Charter. 63 civilizations have joined together under human military protection. We call this the Alliance of Free Worlds. Any species threatened by aggressors can request our assistance. Ambassador Veltar of the Alterian Confederacy rose from his seat. The tall, thin alien had opposed human membership in the galactic community for years. Madam President, your species has no authority to establish military alliances. Such matters must be approved by this council. With respect, Ambassador, we tried the council approach. The Kethmorans died while you debated. We will not make that mistake again. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some delegates supported the human position, while others demanded that the alliance be dissolved immediately. President Hayes waited for the noise to subside before continuing. The Ravager Collective maintains a fleet of 2,000 ships. Intelligence suggests they are planning massive retaliatory strikes against multiple worlds. The Alliance will not wait for Council approval to defend innocent lives. Admiral Cole watched the proceedings from Earth Command, where he coordinated the new Terran protection fleet. The force had grown to include ships and crews from a dozen allied species. Kethmoran sensor technology combined with human weapons created the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Captain Morrison commanded the flagship TDF Unity, a joint human-alien vessel that served as the Alliance mobile headquarters. His crew included engineers from 7 different species, all working together to maintain their cutting-edge systems. Admiral, Morrison reported via subspace communication, we've detected increased Ravager activity in the outer rim. Long range. Sensors show they're assembling a massive fleet at their home base. Cole studied the tactical displays. How massive? Preliminary estimates suggest over 1,500 ships. That's 3/4 of their total force. Sir, this looks like preparation for a major offensive. The intelligence was troubling but not unexpected. The Ravagers had never faced organized resistance before. Their defeat at Kethmora had shattered their reputation for invincibility. They needed a decisive victory to restore fear among potential victims. Colonel Rodriguez had been promoted to general and now commanded all Alliance ground forces. Her troops included human Marines, Kethmoran engineers, and warriors from 6 other species. They trained together on specially constructed facilities, learning to coordinate different fighting styles and technologies. General, came a message from her aide. We've received a priority transmission from the Zelani system. Ravager scouts have been detected in their outer territories. Rodriguez immediately dispatched 3 Alliance patrol groups to investigate. The Zelani were peaceful, traders who had joined the Alliance after witnessing the Kethmoran rescue. Their strategic location made them a likely target for Ravager expansion. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez continued monitoring galactic communications from Luna Station. Her equipment now included Keth-Moran translation matrices that could decode hundreds of alien languages simultaneously. The intelligence network had become crucial to Alliance operations. Dr. Vasquez, her assistant, reported, "We're receiving coded transmissions from inside Ravager territory. It appears to be coming from survivors of the destroyed civilizations." Elena immediately focused all available resources on decoding the messages. If survivors existed in Ravager space, rescue operations might be possible. The implications were staggering. The coded messages revealed that several destroyed civilizations had small populations surviving in hidden bases throughout Ravager territory. They had been sending secret transmissions for years, hoping someone would hear their calls for help. "Admiral Cole," Elena reported, "we've made contact with resistance groups from 5 different species. They're requesting immediate extraction. Total population is estimated at 3 million survivors." Cole faced an impossible decision. Rescue operations deep in enemy territory would require most of the Alliance fleet, but leaving 3 million people in Ravager captivity was unthinkable. "Dr. Vasquez, coordinate with the resistance groups. We need detailed intelligence on Ravager, defenses and prison facilities. General Rodriguez, prepare your best teams for extended operations behind enemy lines." The rescue planning took 6 weeks. Alliance intelligence officers worked with resistance contacts to identify the most vulnerable prisoner populations. The operation would require perfect timing and coordination across multiple star systems. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued debating humanity's role in galactic affairs. Traditional powers like the Alterian Confederacy demanded that humans submit to Council authority. Newer civilizations supported the Alliance approach to mutual defense. President Hayes received daily reports on the Council sessions. Most debates centered on whether humans had the right to act independently of established galactic law. The question revealed deep divisions within the supposedly unified galactic community. "Madam President," reported Secretary of State Michael Carter, "the Council has split into 3 factions. 40% support our alliance model, 30% oppose any change to current policies, and 30% want to establish their own competing defense organization." The political landscape was shifting rapidly. For the first time in galactic history, military power was being used to protect the weak rather than exploit them. Traditional powers found their influence diminishing as smaller civilizations joined the Alliance. On the military front, Captain Morrison's scouts confirmed that the Ravager fleet was indeed preparing for major operations. Enemy ships were concentrating at 3 staging areas, suggesting coordinated attacks on multiple Alliance worlds. "Admiral," Morrison reported, "Ravager communications indicate they're planning simultaneous strikes on Keth-Moran, the Zilani system, and our supply depot at Beta Station. They want to destroy Alliance credibility by showing they can still strike at will." Admiral Cole immediately began planning defensive operations. The Alliance fleet would need to be in 3 places at once, a logistical nightmare that required careful coordination. "All Alliance commanders prepare for Operation Shield Wall. We will defend every world under our protection. The Ravagers will learn that attacking our allies means fighting all of us." The Alliance had grown from humanity's single act of compassion into a galactic military force protecting over 60 civilizations. Dr. Velin's people had contributed advanced sensors and medical technology. The Zilani provided crucial intelligence networks. Other species offered manufacturing capabilities and strategic resources. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, the weak and peaceful had united under common defense. The age of predators hunting helpless prey was ending. The final piece of the transformation came when Lieutenant Parker's intelligence network discovered the location of the main Ravager home base. Hidden in a nebula beyond the galactic rim, the fortress contained their command structure and primary shipyards. "Sir," Parker reported to Admiral Cole, "we have complete tactical data on the Ravager home base. It's heavily defended but not impossible to assault. A successful attack could end their threat permanently." Cole studied the intelligence data carefully. A strike against the Ravager homeworld would be the largest military operation in galactic history. Success would eliminate the threat forever. Failure could result in the destruction of the entire Alliance fleet. The decision would determine the future of the galaxy. Either the age of predators would continue, or a new era of protection and justice would begin. The Deep Space Communication Array on Luna Station picked up the signal at 0347 hours ship time. It was weak, broken, and filled with static that made most alien species dismiss it as cosmic noise. But humans had learned long ago to listen to the whispers in the void. Lieutenant Mark Torres was drinking his third cup of coffee when the emergency beacon lit up his console. The message was short and desperate. Colony under attack, unknown hostiles, requesting immediate assistance. This is Kepler 442b mining station. Anyone receiving this, please respond. Mark sat up straight and replayed the message. Kepler 442b was 18 light-years away, deep in what most species called the dead zone. The planet was a nightmare world with crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, and temperatures that could melt steel. Only humans were crazy enough to build a mining colony there. "Sir, we have an emergency transmission from the outer colonies," Mark called to his supervisor, Commander Janet Rodriguez. Janet walked over and listened to the message. Her face grew serious as she heard the fear in the colonist's voice. "How many people are stationed there?" 47 humans, plus about 20 aliens from different species, mostly miners and engineers, Mark replied, checking his database. "Any response from their home governments?" Mark shook his head. The Altarian Council sent a formal note of concern. The Centauri Union filed a complaint about mining rights. Nobody is sending help. Janet was quiet for a moment. She knew the mathematics of space rescue operations. Kepler 442b was far away, dangerous to reach and expensive to mount a rescue mission to. The colony produced some rare minerals, but not enough to justify the cost of military intervention. Most species would write off the colonists as an acceptable loss. But humans had never been good at that kind of mathematics. "Send a message to Fleet Command," Janet ordered. "Tell them we have a code red distress call from Kepler 442b. Request immediate military response." "Ma'am, the nearest fleet unit is the heavy cruiser Defender under Captain Robert Kane. They're currently on patrol near the Vega system." "Perfect. Send them the coordinates and tell them to move fast. Those colonists won't last long without help." 3 hours later, Captain Robert Kane received the message aboard the Defender. He was a veteran of the frontier wars, a man who had seen what happened when humans were left to die in the darkness between stars. His ship was one of Earth's newest heavy cruisers, built specifically for long-range rescue and military operations. "Status report," Kane ordered as he walked onto the bridge. "Sir, we have a confirmed distress signal from Kepler 442b, reported his first officer, Commander Lisa Park. Colony reports hostile attack, unknown enemy. Estimated 47 human civilians, plus 20 alien workers." Kane studied the tactical display. Kepler 442b appeared as a red dot on the star map, surrounded by warnings about atmospheric conditions, gravity levels, and radiation. Most ship computers would recommend avoiding the system entirely. "What's our response time?" 4 days at maximum burn, sir. The planet is deep in hostile space, no friendly bases for support. Kane nodded. 4 days was a long time for colonists under attack, but the Defender was built for exactly this kind of mission. Set course for Kepler 442b, maximum burn, and send a message to the colony on all frequencies. "What should the message say, sir?" Kane thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. "Tell them, help is coming. Hold your position. Earth remembers its own." As the Defender changed course and began accelerating toward the distant system, Kane called his senior staff to the briefing room. The holographic display showed everything they knew about Kepler 442b, which wasn't much. "Gentlemen, we're heading into unknown territory," Kane began. "The planet is a Class 9 death world. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures. Most species can't survive there without environmental suits." "What about the hostiles?" asked Major Tom Wilson, the ship's Marine commander. "Unknown. The colonists report creatures that can phase through matter and use advanced energy weapons. No match in our databases. Sir, why would anyone attack a mining colony on a planet like that? Asked Dr. Alan Cooper, the ship's science officer. Kane was quiet for a moment. Maybe they want the minerals. Maybe they want the colonists for some reason. Or maybe they just want to test themselves against humans. Either way, we're not leaving our people to die out there. The briefing continued for another hour as they planned their approach. The Defender would arrive at maximum combat readiness, prepared for anything from space pirates to alien invasion forces. But Kane knew that the real challenge would be the planet itself. Kepler 442b was what humans called a death world, a planet so hostile that it actively tried to kill anything that lived on its surface. The gravity was nearly twice Earth normal. The atmosphere was filled with corrosive gases that could eat through most metals. The temperature swings could freeze or boil water within hours. Most alien species needed full environmental suits and life support systems just to survive there. Humans needed work clothes and a breathing mask. That was why humans had built the mining colony there in the first place. While other species saw an impossible world, humans saw opportunity. The planet's extreme conditions had created rare mineral formations that were incredibly valuable, and only humans were tough enough to extract them. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the colony, Lieutenant Torres announced. Kane nodded. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was strained but determined. This is Mining Supervisor Dave Johnson, Kepler 442b colony. To any Earth forces receiving this message, we are under heavy attack by unknown hostiles. We have casualties and are running low on ammunition. The creatures are unlike anything we've seen before. They seem to phase through solid matter and their weapons can cut through our defenses. We're holed up in the main bunker with 31 humans and 11 aliens. We can hold for maybe 2 more days. Please hurry. Kane keyed the microphone. Dave, this is Captain Kane of the Earth Defense Ship Defender. We are en route to your position. ETA 4 days. Can you hold that long? There was a pause. Then Dave's voice came back, stronger now. Captain, we're humans living on a death world. We didn't come here because it was easy. We'll hold the line until you arrive. Copy that, Dave. We're coming in heavy. Prepare a full tactical briefing when we arrive. Kane out. As the transmission ended, Kane looked around the bridge. His crew was already making preparations for combat. The Defender was a powerful ship, but they were heading into the unknown against an enemy they didn't understand. But Kane had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had seen humans fight impossible battles on worlds that would kill most species just by breathing the air. He had watched human colonists turn frozen rocks into gardens and poisonous swamps into cities. The colonists on Kepler 442b would hold their ground. Kane was certain of that, because that's what humans did. They survived, they fought, and they protected their own no matter the cost. The Defender raced through space toward the distant star system, carrying with it the promise that no human distress call would ever go unanswered. In the void between stars, that promise was more valuable than any rare mineral. It was what made humans dangerous. And it was exactly what the hostile forces on Kepler 442b were about to discover. Mining Supervisor Dave Johnson crouched behind the reinforced concrete barrier as another energy blast melted through the outer wall. The creatures had been attacking for 6 hours straight, and his defenses were failing fast. How many rounds left? Dave shouted to Security Chief Tom Miller, who was manning the heavy machine gun mounted on the bunker's roof. Maybe 300. Tom replied, ducking as another blast scorched the air above his head. These things just keep coming. Dave looked around the bunker's main room. 31 humans and 11 aliens huddled together, their faces showing fear but also determination. The aliens looked terrified, but the humans seemed almost calm. Living on Kepler 442b had taught them that death was always just one mistake away. What are those things? Asked Dr. Sarah Chen, the colony's medical officer, as she bandaged a wounded Altarian engineer. Never seen anything like them, Dave replied, peering through a gap in the barrier. They're about 7 feet tall, moving on 4 legs like giant spiders, but they seem to phase in and out of solid matter. Our bullets go right through them sometimes. The creatures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They appeared to be made of some kind of dark energy that could shift between solid and incorporeal states. Their weapons fired concentrated beams that could cut through steel like paper. Worst of all, they seemed to be learning from each attack. "They're testing us," Tom observed as he reloaded his weapon. "Each wave is different. They're studying our defenses." Dave nodded grimly. The first attack had been direct, with the creatures rushing the bunker in a straight line. When that failed, they had tried flanking maneuvers. Now they were using coordinated strikes, hitting multiple points simultaneously. "Sir, the power grid is holding, but the backup generators are running low on fuel," reported engineer Pete Rodriguez from the control station. "We've got maybe 18 hours of power left." Dave checked his chronometer. The Earthship was still 3 days away. They had to find a way to hold out until then, but their ammunition was running low, and the creatures were getting smarter with each attack. "Pete, can you reroute power from the mining equipment to the defensive systems?" "Already done, sir. I've shut down everything except life support and the defensive grid. But those energy weapons are overloading our shields." Another blast rocked the bunker and dust fell from the ceiling. Through the reinforced windows, Dave could see more creatures emerging from the ground. They seemed to be coming from some kind of underground tunnel system. "They're multiplying," whispered Vel, the senior Altarian engineer. "My people have protocols for this situation. We should surrender and hope for mercy." Dave looked at the alien with disbelief. "Surrender? We don't even know what these things want." "They want us alive," Dr. Chen said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Think about it. They could have destroyed this bunker hours ago with those energy weapons. Instead, they're wearing us down slowly. They want to capture us, not kill us." The thought sent a chill through the group. Being killed in battle was one thing, but being taken alive by unknown aliens was terrifying. "All the more reason to keep fighting," Dave said firmly. "Tom, what's our tactical situation?" Tom climbed down from the roof position and spread out a map of the colony. "They've got us surrounded, but they're concentrating their attacks on the eastern wall. That's our weakest point. But it's also where we've got the most firepower concentrated." "What about the mine shafts?" "Sealed them off when the attack started. But if these things can phase through matter, I don't know how long that'll hold them." Dave studied the map. The mining colony was built into the side of a mountain, with the main bunker carved deep into the rock. The mine shafts extended even deeper, creating a network of tunnels that honeycombed the mountain. If the creatures could access those tunnels, they could attack from any direction. "Pete, can you flood the lower levels with toxic gas from the mining operations?" "Yeah, but it'll take about an hour to reroute the systems. And we don't know if these things even breathe. Do it anyway. We need every advantage we can get." As Pete worked on the gas system, Dave organized the remaining defenders. The humans took the most dangerous positions, while the aliens were assigned to communication and supply duties. It wasn't because Dave didn't trust the aliens to fight, but because humans were simply better adapted to the planet's harsh environment. The next attack came just as Pete finished flooding the lower tunnels with gas. The creatures emerged from the mine shafts, but something was wrong. They moved slower, less coordinated. The gas was affecting them. "They do breathe," Tom said with satisfaction as he opened fire on the confused creatures. "Or at least they need to process the atmosphere somehow." The attack was repelled, but Dave knew it was only a temporary victory. The creatures would adapt, just as they had to every other defense. They needed something more permanent. "Dr. Chen, you've been studying the creatures. What can you tell us about their biology?" "They're not entirely energy-based," she replied, looking at her scanner readings. "There's some kind of physical component that becomes solid when they're attacking. That's when they're vulnerable. So we need to time our shots for when they're in attack mode?" "Exactly. But the window is very small, maybe half a second." Dave nodded. It wasn't much, but it was something. He gathered the human defenders and explained the new tactic. They would wait for the creatures to solidify, then concentrate all their fire on single targets. The next attack came 2 hours later. This time the humans were ready. As the creatures phased into solid form to fire their weapons, the defenders opened up with everything they had. 3 creatures fell in the first volley, but the victory was short-lived. More creatures emerged from the ground, and these ones were different. They seemed to have learned from watching their fallen comrades. They stayed incorporeal longer, only solidifying for brief moments to attack. They're adapting faster than we are, Tom observed as he reloaded his weapon. Dave looked around the bunker. His people were tired, low on ammunition, and facing an enemy that got smarter with every battle. But they were still fighting, still holding the line. How long until the Earthship arrives? Asked Dr. Chen. Dave checked his chronometer again. 72 hours. We'll never last that long. Dave looked at the faces around him. Humans who had chosen to live on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. People who woke up every morning knowing that the atmosphere outside could kill them, that the gravity could crush them, that the temperature swings could freeze or boil them. We're not just going to last, Dave said quietly. We're going to make these things regret they ever found this place. Outside, the creatures regrouped for another attack. But inside the bunker, the humans prepared to show them what it meant to fight a species that had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every single day. Captain Robert Kane stood on the bridge of the Defender as they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. The planet hung before them like a burning coal in space, its surface wreathed in toxic clouds and lightning storms. "Sensor, report," Kane ordered. Commander Lisa Park studied her displays with growing concern. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures on the planet's surface. There are also 12 unknown vessels in orbit around the planet. Configuration unlike anything in our databases." Kane examined the tactical display. The alien ships were sleek and organic-looking, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. They were positioned in a perfect defensive formation around the planet. "Any response from the colony?" "Negative, sir. All communication channels are being jammed, but I am detecting weapons fire on the surface near the mining colony location." Kane nodded grimly. The colonists were still fighting, which meant some of them were still alive. "Analysis of the alien vessels? 12 ships ranging from frigate to cruiser class. Their technology appears to be energy-based, possibly plasma or some form of directed energy weapons. No missiles or kinetic weapons detected." Lieutenant Torres looked up from his station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it on speakers." The voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, translated by the ship's universal language system. "Human vessel, you are interfering with a harvesting operation. These life forms have been selected for processing. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Kane stepped forward. "This is Captain Kane of the Earth Defense Ship Defender. You are in violation of interstellar law by attacking a peaceful mining colony. Withdraw your forces immediately." "The creatures you call humans are of interest to the Wraith Collective. They will be studied and processed. You have 1 hour to leave this system." The transmission ended. "Wraith Collective," Kane muttered. "Never heard of them. But they just made a big mistake." "Sir, we're outnumbered 12-1, Park pointed out. Their ships appeared to be technologically advanced. Kane smiled coldly. "Commander, these aliens just told us they want to harvest humans for study. That means they don't understand what they're dealing with. Signal the crew for battle stations." The Defender was a heavy cruiser built specifically for long-range operations in hostile territory. While the alien ships relied on energy weapons and advanced technology, the Defender was armed with good old-fashioned human engineering, railguns, missile tubes, and fusion warheads. "Weapon status?" Kane asked. Major Tom Wilson, the Marine commander, reported from the tactical station. "All weapon systems online, sir. Railguns loaded with tungsten penetrators. Missile tubes loaded with nuclear warheads. Marines are standing by for drop pod deployment." "Sir, the alien ships are moving into attack formation," Park announced. Kane studied the enemy formation. The alien ships moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism. Their technology was clearly superior to human weapons in many ways, but they had never fought humans before. All batteries target the lead ship. Let's show these Wraith what happens when they threaten human colonies. The Defender's main railgun fired first, launching a tungsten penetrator at a significant fraction of light speed. The alien ship's energy shields flared as they tried to deflect the projectile. But shields designed to stop energy weapons were useless against solid matter, traveling at relativistic velocities. The tungsten rod punched through the alien ship's hull like a needle through paper. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Direct hit," Wilson reported. "Enemy ship destroyed." The alien fleet responded immediately, firing concentrated energy beams at the Defender. The human ship's shields held, but barely. "Shields down to 60%, Park reported. "Launch fighters," Kane ordered, "and prep the missile tubes." The Defender's fighter squadron launched from the ship's bays, 12 small craft piloted by humans who had learned to fly in the asteroid fields of Sol. The alien ships were fast and maneuverable, but human pilots had one advantage. They were crazy enough to fly attack runs that would kill most other species. Lieutenant Jack Ryan led the fighter squadron in a high-speed attack on the alien formation. The Wraith ships fired their energy weapons, but the human fighters were small and fast, weaving between the energy beams like dancers. "Fox 1! Fox 1!" Ryan called as he launched his missiles at a Wraith cruiser. The alien ship's point defense systems tried to intercept the missiles, but human weapons were designed to be simple and reliable rather than elegant. The missiles detonated against the alien hull, tearing through their advanced armor with brute force explosive power. The cruiser listed to one side, venting atmosphere and energy. But the real battle was happening on the planet's surface. Dave Johnson crouched in the bunker as another energy blast melted through the outer wall. The Wraith ground forces had been attacking for 12 hours straight, but something had changed. The attacks were becoming more desperate, less coordinated. "They're getting frustrated," Tom Miller observed as he fired another burst from his machine gun. "These things aren't used to prey that fights back." Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her medical equipment. "I've been analyzing their energy signatures. These creatures are adapted for hunting in low-gravity, low-pressure environments. The conditions on this planet are actually hurting them." Dave realized what she meant. Kepler 442b was a death world, not just for most alien species, but for the Wraith as well. The crushing gravity, the toxic atmosphere, the extreme temperatures, all of it was working against the attackers. "Pete, can you increase the atmospheric pressure in the bunker's ventilation system?" Dave asked. Engineer Pete Rodriguez nodded. "Already thought of that. I've been venting high-pressure gases from the mining equipment into the air system. It's making their energy weapons less effective." The Wraith had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that because they could phase through matter and use advanced energy weapons, they could easily overcome primitive human technology. But they had never fought a species that had learned to turn their environment into a weapon. "Tom, what's our ammunition status?" "Down to our last 100 rounds for the machine gun, but I've been improvising." Tom grinned and held up a device that looked like a mining charge attached to a motion sensor. Turns out mining explosives work just fine on these things when they're in solid form. The next Wraith attack came an hour later, but this time the humans were ready. As the creatures phased into solid form to breach the bunker, they triggered Pete's improvised explosive traps. The mining charges, designed to blast through solid rock, tore through the Wraith forces like a hurricane, but more kept coming. The creatures seemed to have an endless supply of troops, and they were learning from each failed attack. "Dave, we're getting a transmission," Pete called from the communication station. Dave grabbed the handset. "This is Dave Johnson. Dave, this is Captain Kane. We're engaging the Wraith fleet in orbit. What's your status down there?" "We're holding, Captain, but barely. These things keep adapting to our tactics. How much longer until you can provide support?" "We're winning up here, but it's going to take time to clear the orbital zone." "Can you hold for another 6 hours?" Dave looked around the bunker. His people were exhausted, low on ammunition, and facing an enemy that got smarter with every battle. But they were humans, and humans had spent millions of years learning to survive in environments that wanted to kill them. "Captain, we're not going anywhere. These Wraith picked the wrong planet and the wrong species to mess with." "Copy that, Dave. Keep fighting. Earth is coming." As the transmission ended, Dave turned to his defenders. "You heard the man. 6 more hours. Think we can give these things 6 more hours of hell? Tom Miller grinned as he loaded another improvised explosive. Hell, Dave, we're just getting started. Outside the bunker, the Wraith forces regrouped for another attack. But inside, the humans prepared to show them what it really meant to fight a species that called Deathworlders home. The Defender's main railgun fired again, sending another tungsten penetrator through the Wraith formation. The second alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash, its advanced hull no match for simple kinetic energy traveling at relativistic speeds. Target destroyed, Major Wilson reported from the tactical station. Enemy formation is breaking up. Captain Kane watched the alien ships scatter on his display. The Wraith fleet had expected to face energy weapons and missile systems like most galactic navies used. Instead, they were being hammered by weapons that fired solid metal at incredible speeds. Sir, the enemy is attempting to regroup, Commander, Park announced. They're moving to attack Formation Delta. Kane studied the tactical display. The remaining 10 Wraith ships were spreading out, trying to surround the Defender. Their energy weapons were powerful, but they needed time to charge. Between shots, human railguns could fire continuously. All batteries continuous fire, Kane ordered. Don't give them time to coordinate their attack. The Defender's guns spoke with thunder. Railgun after railgun fired in sequence, filling space with deadly projectiles. The Wraith ships twisted and turned, trying to avoid the incoming fire. But they were designed for elegant energy combat, not the brutal reality of kinetic warfare. Lieutenant Jack Ryan's fighter squadron was causing havoc among the alien fleet. The human pilots flew their small craft like demons, weaving between enemy fire and launching missiles at point-blank range. Phoenix leader to Defender, Ryan's voice crackled over the comm. We've got 3 enemy ships dead in the water. Requesting permission to finish them off. Permission granted, Kane replied. All fighters, concentrate on the damaged vessels. The fighters swarmed the crippled Wraith ships like angry wasps. Their missiles were small but numerous, and the alien point defense systems couldn't track all of them. One by one, the damaged ships exploded under the concentrated assault, but the battle was far from over. The remaining Wraith ships had learned from watching their comrades die. They began using hit-and-run tactics, firing their energy weapons and then retreating before the human railguns could target them. Sir, we're not doing enough damage, Park reported. They're learning to avoid our fire patterns. Kane nodded grimly. The Wraith were intelligent opponents, adapting their tactics in real time. But they had made one critical error. They had underestimated human determination. Launch the drop pods, Kane ordered. Wilson looked surprised. Sir, the surface is still controlled by enemy forces. It'll be a one-way trip for the Marines. The Marines know that, Kane replied. But there are humans down there who need help. We're not leaving them to die. 24 drop pods launched from the Defender's belly, each one carrying a squad of Earth Defense Force Marines. The pods were designed to survive atmospheric entry on the most hostile worlds humanity had encountered. Kepler 442b was just another Tuesday for them. Sergeant Mike Stone checked his weapon as his pod plummeted through the toxic atmosphere. Around him, his squad prepared for combat in conditions that would kill most alien species within minutes. 30 seconds to impact, the pod's computer announced. Environmental conditions, hostile. Gravity 1.8 standard. Atmospheric pressure 3.1 standard. Temperature 340 Kelvin. Just like training on Titan, Stone muttered, earning grim chuckles from his Marines. The pod slammed into the surface near the mining colony, their shock absorbers working overtime to keep the occupants alive. The doors blew open with explosive charges, and the Marines emerged into hell. Kepler 442b's surface was a nightmare of twisted metal and alien structures. The Wraith had been busy during their occupation, building geometric patterns that pulsed with dark energy. But the Marines had trained for urban warfare in environments that would melt most species. All squads sound off, Stone commanded over the tactical net. Alpha Squad all present and accounted for. Bravo Squad ready for action. Charlie Squad locked and loaded. 24 Marines against thousands of Wraith ground forces. By any reasonable military calculation, it should have been a massacre. But the Wraith had never fought humans before. The first Wraith patrol encountered Stone's squad as they moved through the colony ruins. The aliens expected to face terrified colonists or standard galactic military forces. Instead, they met humans who had learned warfare on Deathworlds. "Contact front," Corporal Nina Walsh called as her scanner detected movement. "Multiple hostiles, moving in formation." "Light them up," Stone ordered. The Marines opened fire with weapons designed not for elegant energy discharge but for brutal kinetic impact. Their assault rifles fired armor-piercing rounds at hypersonic velocities. Their grenade launchers sent high-explosive warheads into the Wraith ranks. The first patrol was wiped out in seconds, but more were coming. The Wraith ground forces began, converging on the Marine positions, their energy weapons carving through the colony's ruins. The aliens had numerical superiority, but they were fighting in an environment that favored the defenders. "Stone to defender," the sergeant called over the comm. "We're moving toward the bunker. Estimate we'll reach friendly lines in 20 minutes. "Copy that, Stone. Be advised, the bunker is under heavy assault. Survivors are running low on ammunition. In the bunker, Dave Johnson heard the explosions getting closer and allowed himself to hope. The Marines were coming, but the Wraith had intensified their attacks. The aliens seemed to sense that time was running out. "They're throwing everything they have at us," Tom Miller reported as he fired the last belt of ammunition for the machine gun. "Whatever those Marines are doing out there, it's got these things scared." Dave looked around the bunker. His people were exhausted, down to their last few rounds of ammunition, but still fighting. The alien colonists had long since stopped suggesting surrender. They had seen what humans were capable of when their backs were against the wall. "Dr. Chen, how many wounded?" 6 humans, 3 aliens. "Nothing life-threatening if we can get them proper medical attention." Dave nodded. They had held the line for 18 hours against impossible odds. Now they just had to hold a little longer. The sound of human weapons grew louder, and suddenly the Wraith attacks faltered. Through the bunker's external cameras, Dave could see Marines advancing through the ruins, their weapons cutting through the alien forces like a scythe through wheat. "This is Sergeant Stone, Earth Defense Force Marines. Bunker personnel, identify yourselves." Dave grabbed the communicator. "Mining Supervisor Dave Johnson, Kepler 442b Colony. Sergeant, we have never been happier to see Marines in our entire lives." "Copy that, Dave. We're coming to get you out of there. How many personnel?" 31 humans, 11 aliens. We're down to our last ammunition but still fighting." "Understood. Hold tight. We'll have you extracted in 15 minutes." The final battle for the bunker became a coordinated assault as the Marines fought their way through the Wraith defenses while the colonists provided covering fire from inside. The aliens were caught between 2 forces and began to retreat, but they weren't giving up easily. The Wraith seemed to realize that their harvesting operation had failed, and they began destroying everything they couldn't take. Their energy weapons carved through the colony's infrastructure, leaving nothing but molten metal behind. "They're trying to deny us the colony," Stone observed, as he watched a Wraith unit destroy a mining platform. Scorched Earth tactics, Dave had emerged from the bunker and was standing beside the Marine sergeant. "Let them have the equipment. We can rebuild." But they learned something today they won't forget. "What's that?" Dave looked up at the sky, where the Defender was still fighting the Wraith fleet. "They learned what happens when you threaten humans. We don't just fight back, we make sure you regret it." The battle for Kepler 442b entered its final phase as the last Wraith ships in orbit began their retreat. Captain Kane watched from the Defender's bridge as the alien vessels limped away from the system, their sleek hulls scarred and broken. "Sir, the enemy fleet is withdrawing," Commander Park reported. 5 ships destroyed, 4 heavily damaged. The remaining 3 are fleeing at maximum speed. Kane nodded with satisfaction. The Wraith had learned the hard way that human military doctrine was built around a simple principle: overwhelming firepower applied with surgical precision. Their energy weapons and advanced technology meant nothing against railgun slugs traveling at relativistic speeds. "Let them go," Kane ordered. "We've made our point. Signal the fighters to return to base and prep the medical bays for wounded. We're going planetside, on the surface of Kepler 442b. The final Wraith ground forces were making their last stand around the mining colony. But they were no longer fighting to capture humans for their harvesting operation. Now they were fighting just to survive. Sergeant Mike Stone led his Marines through the colony ruins, systematically clearing out Wraith positions. The aliens had built defensive structures during their occupation, but they were designed for energy-based warfare. Human explosive charges made short work of them. Alpha Squad, take the eastern approach, Stone commanded over the tactical net. Bravo Squad, sweep the mining platforms. Charlie Squad, secure the bunker perimeter. The Marines moved with deadly efficiency. Each squad carried enough firepower to level a city block, and they were not hesitant to use it. The Wraith had never faced an enemy that treated warfare as a job to be done rather than an art to be practiced. Corporal Nina Walsh crouched behind a collapsed mining platform and watched a group of Wraith soldiers trying to set up a defensive position. The aliens moved with fluid grace, their energy weapons humming as they charged for battle. Contact, 200 meters, Walsh reported. 6 hostiles setting up defensive positions. Take them out, Stone replied. Walsh armed a high explosive grenade and lobbed it over the platform. The explosion turned the Wraith position into molten slag. Their advanced technology no match for simple chemical explosives. But the real victory was happening at the bunker itself. Dave Johnson and his colonists had emerged from their fortress to join the final assault. They were tired, low on ammunition, and had been fighting for 20 hours straight. But they were still human, and humans had never learned the meaning of surrender. Dave, good to see you in one piece, Stone called as he approached the bunker entrance. Sergeant, your timing couldn't be better, Dave replied, hefting an improvised explosive device. We were down to our last few rounds. Tom Miller limped over, his left arm in a makeshift sling but still carrying his rifle. These Wraith things don't give up easy. They've been trying to take prisoners, but we kept telling them we weren't interested. Dr. Sarah Chen was treating wounded near the bunker entrance, working on both human and alien colonists. The Altarians and Centauri who had survived the siege looked at the humans with something approaching awe. I don't understand, Vel, the senior Altarian engineer, said to Dr. Chen. Your people fought for 20 hours against impossible odds. Why didn't you retreat or surrender when you had the chance? Dr. Chen looked up from bandaging a wounded Marine. Because they're our people, down here, and we don't leave our people behind. But the mathematics don't make sense. Your government spent millions of credits and risked a warship to save 47 humans on a worthless planet. Dr. Chen smiled. That's the thing about humans. We're not very good at mathematics when it comes to our own. The final Wraith resistance collapsed an hour later. The aliens had been reduced to scattered groups hiding in the mining tunnels, but even there they found no safety. Human Marines who had trained in the asteroid mines of Sol were perfectly comfortable fighting in underground tunnels. All clear, Sergeant, Corporal Walsh reported as her squad emerged from the deepest mine shaft. No more hostiles detected. Stone nodded and keyed his communicator. Defender, this is Stone. Colony is secure, requesting immediate medical evacuation for wounded personnel. Copy that, Stone, came Kane's voice. Shuttles are already inbound, medical teams standing by. As the first Earth Defense Force shuttles touched down on Kepler 442b's surface, the magnitude of what had happened began to sink in. A human mining colony on one of the most hostile planets in known space had been attacked by an unknown alien force. Earth's response had been swift and overwhelming. The Wraith Collective had expected to harvest a few dozen primitive humans for study. Instead, they had encountered a military response that traveled 18 light-years in 4 days, and fought with weapons that turned their advanced technology into scrap metal. Captain Kane walked through the colony ruins, surveying the damage. The mining equipment was mostly destroyed, but the colonists were alive. That was what mattered. Captain, Dave approached, still carrying his improvised weapons. I want to thank you and your crew. We wouldn't have made it another day without your help. Kane looked at the mining supervisor with respect. Dave, you and your people held off an alien invasion force for 20 hours with mining equipment and spare parts. I should be thanking you. We just did what we had to do. That's exactly my point, Kane replied. Most species would have surrendered after the first hour. You people turned a Deathworld into a fortress and made the attackers pay for every meter of ground. As the wounded were loaded onto medical shuttles and the survivors prepared for evacuation, word of the Battle of Kepler 442b began spreading through galactic communication networks. The story was simple but profound. Earth had responded to a distress call with the full power of its military, crossing interstellar space to save a handful of colonists on a planet most species considered uninhabitable. The Altarian Council issued a formal statement praising human determination. The Centauri Union quietly began reviewing their own military response protocols. Other species began to understand that threatening human colonies was not a wise decision, but for the humans involved, it was just another day at the office. They had received a distress call from their own people and they had responded. The distance didn't matter. The cost didn't matter. The odds didn't matter. Dr. Chen helped load the last wounded colonist onto a shuttle and looked back at the ruined mining colony. In a few months, Earth would send another team to rebuild. The mining operation would continue because humans didn't abandon profitable ventures just because they were dangerous. "Doctor, are you ready to depart?" asked the shuttle pilot. "Ready," she replied, taking one last look at the planet that had tried to kill them all. "But I'll be back. This place still has minerals to extract." The pilot shook his head in amazement. "Doc, this planet nearly killed you. Why would you want to come back?" Dr. Chen smiled as the shuttle lifted off from Kepler 442b's surface. "Because someone has to do the job. And humans are very good at doing jobs that nobody else can do." As the shuttles returned to the Defender, Captain Kane received a message from Earth Command. The Wraith Collective had sent a formal communication to the Galactic Council, withdrawing all claims to human-occupied systems. The alien species had learned what many others had discovered over the years. Humans were easy to underestimate and impossible to defeat. The Defender set course for Earth, carrying the survivors of Kepler 442b back to safety. Behind them, the Yo planet continued its eternal rotation, waiting for the next group of humans brave enough to call it home. In the depths of space, the message was clear. An SOS to Earth was never answered lightly, and anyone who threatened human lives would learn exactly what that meant.